Tapanila. I work in a company called AppCampus, so there is US after it. And I work there as a guru. So my role is to technically help people. And what our company does is basically we are a 21 million euro fund that supports Windows Phone application developers. So we invest in companies either 20, 50 or 70,000 euros. We don't take equity, and our goal is just to produce the application. Other than that, I'm a Nokia developer champion on Windows Phone, and I'm a Windows Azure insider. So I know a bit about Windows Phone development. And today we are going to start with Windows Phone design. How many of you have done Android, iOS, or Windows Phone apps? Please raise your hand. Okay. So how many of you would consider yourself as a designer? Awesome. I would never consider myself as a designer, but still I very much put value on the design. Because no matter how good my code is, if the design is crappy, it will not sell. Of course, if marketing is crappy, it will not either sell. And if the code doesn't work, you don't have a product. But you need all the building blocks. So a little bit about the Windows Phone design style. So on the Windows Phone, you have very unique design style. So why is that? To produce something that always behaves like the user expects. For example, when you open an application on the desktop side of the Windows, you always know that the file menu is on the top left corner. And then after the file menu, you have the exit on the last on the row. Almost all of the applications follow that same guideline. To make that consistent feeling on the mobile too, Microsoft created the guidelines. You don't always need to follow them if you have very good reasons, but you should know that the users expect you to follow them. There is 5 principles. All of these 5 principles are very important for the Windows Phone design. So pride in craftsmanship. You should always be proud in what you're building. Why you're building something if you don't want to be proud of it? I don't know. Then, of course, more with less. Meaning that if you have all the information in the world in one page, that page is not going to look nice. You need to make sure that all of the important information is seen through all of the not so important information. Then being fast and fluid, authentically digital, and win as one. So a little bit examples, like what I mean on the, for example, the pride in craftsmanship. How many of you have seen the grid? Okay, so on Windows Phone, the idea is that all of your elements should be aligned. And they should be aligned always on the same level. So for example here, you can see that on the left, everything is aligned perfectly. All of the spaces are very nice. So every red pixel is 12 pixels, so 12 pixels. So you can see that if you have a space between the header and then of course the images, there is more than 12 pixels. There is currently, I think, there is double, so 24 pixels. And that makes it feel that that's a different element. It's not part of the header. And if you have any questions, just please ask me. So then, of course, using the hierarchy. The idea is not to just put all the information with white text, with a little bit bigger font, a little bit smaller font, and then a little bit headers to the top to see something happening. For example, on the left, you could see something that someone has to put out there. All the information looks kind of same. There is no hierarchy between the elements. Then the other image, you can see the messages hub, which clearly says, these are your conversations. Then you can clearly see, this is the best person who wanted to message me, and then a short information about the message that person sent. So there is, even though it's kind of looks same, it's completely different because of the hierarchy. Then if you want to take it even one more step further, you're going to create your own style. You're going to use your own font or typography to tell your application that we are personal. Then more with less. Here is an example of the mail client. So on the other mail client, you can see that there is the icons that tells you unread it or read it. Then there is, which is taking like huge amount of space from that small screen. Then you can see the name of the people, which is the same size as the very small detail about the message itself. So it's very little bit unclear. On the other hand, you have all of the menus switched to different views. And then of course, you have hierarchy between elements. Then let your content breathe. Because we are using touch monitors and your fingers are not pens, you need to have space between elements. Also, it helps user to understand what kind of elements are clickable, what kind of elements belong together, and what kind of elements are different. For example, on the left, we have the lock screen. Lock screen is basically the screen when your phone is locked, and it will show you the time, which date it currently is, and by default it shows you calendar information. And then you can choose 5 different applications which shows their icon on it. So as you can see, even though they kinda look same, but because there is a hierarchy made with the font, and because there is space to breathe, you can clearly see which belongs to which part. And then a little bit to the right, we have example of the camera roll, and that's called context menu. So when you hold your finger over the object a little bit longer, it opens the menu, and you can see that there is clearly 3 different actions that you can take with the picture. Then fast and fluid. Being alive. One of the key things that makes Windows Phone different from Android is live tiles. How many of you guys have Windows Phone? Okay. How many of you guys haven't seen live tiles? Great. So you know what I'm talking about. So when you're using the live tiles, it's important that your application is showing something relevant. In this example, that person, because that's a person tile on the top right, has been messaging me something, and it's kind of telling me that just now that person has something to say to you. And that makes me want to open the application and see what that person has said to me. And also the icon on the near to the phone shows me that I have 3 phone calls that I haven't answered. I have 7 emails that I might want to read or might not want to read, but I have 7 new emails. So the idea is that I don't need to open the application to know that there is something new, something exciting, hopefully, waiting for me in the application. Then of course, being at motion. I'm sorry that the screen capture doesn't really do the justice, but the idea is that your application should always use animations and telling the user that, okay, so you move to the left, you move to the right, you have now selected something, you are now moving to the page. And the nicest thing is that all of these animations come by default on the Windows Phone developer tools. So normally you don't even need to think about them, and they just come out of the box. But of course, when you want to a little bit take them further, then you need to a little bit think about it yourself. Then authentically digital. Instead of trying to make your application look like that it's a real book, it's a real newspaper, it's something from a real world, just let it be what it is. It is a mobile application. It is digital. It's not going to be paper. It's not going to be book, it's not going to be wood, metal, or any other element. So let it be digital. And focus on the information. Then of course, win as one. How many of you have developed for multiple platforms? Great, at least a few guys. How many of you had done web? Okay, so all of the web developers, I think you guys have made it for multiple platforms. At least I hope so. So you're targeting different kind of browsers. You're targeting different size of the screens. So whenever you think about your application, and whenever you want to really go into the global and get everyone to use it, you should think about like, what is it going to look like on a phone? What is it going to look like on a TV? What is it going to look like on a laptop? Of course, you need to think about that. Is it relevant to me what my application will look like on TV? Why the hell would someone put my application to TV? So, of course, it's case by case. But always, it's nice to think about application that would work on all different sizes. If you want to read more on the design styles and that kind of information, there is developer.windowsphone.com/design, or you can just Google or Bing Windows Phone Design, and you should find it. And all of the default fonts and everything is included, so you don't need to think about those. If you don't want to change the fonts, don't change them. The default fonts are nice. The default font sizes are nice. The whole idea why there exist the guidelines is that it's very easy to get started. Of course, if you want to go a step further, then get someone graphically skilled or someone with good eye on details to look at it and help you to get it further. But just following those few principles, you can get pretty far. You don't need to be a designer to make the design. How many of you think you could follow those guidelines and produce good results? Okay. How many of you have done Windows Phone apps? Okay, great. So 6 guys. How many of you have been happy with the design? Good. So if you go with the basics, you get basic looking application. That's fine. And that's a good starting point. Then a little bit about how to design the application. Who here starts with the whiteboard when you start designing application? Okay. Who here starts with PowerPoint or Photoshop? Okay. Who starts with Visual Studio? Okay. Wrong. No, seriously. I'm just telling you that whenever you touch the Visual Studio, you are thinking, how do I code this? Where do I get the samples? You're thinking already like, how do I implement this? Don't start with that. Start with the design. And this doesn't mean that start with graphics. This means that start what your application will do. Okay, so my application will have nice pictures, nice text boxes, few buttons, and then you can navigate from there to here, and you can read more information. It doesn't need to be harder than that, but it needs to be that way that you can say to someone that, look, here is what my application will do. If you show someone your Visual Studio project, they're going to be like, what is your application doing? I see lots of code. I don't see the meaning behind. So getting the paper or whatever format, this can be mind map, this can be paper, drawing, whiteboard, whatever it is. But the main idea is think about what your application will do. And you can easily write it there. User clicks picture. If you're not good at drawing, you can write to the picture that this is people face. I don't like to draw the picture, so I write to them what they're going to be on those fields. Then, designing the navigation. I would say that these two are hand in hand. Because when you know what your navigation is going to be about, you know what the process will be about. How many of you have started with navigation early? How many of you had problems with navigation? Okay, at least few is honest. If you don't start with navigation, how are you going to validate, is my navigation good? My navigation is perfect, it doesn't have any problems. When you go to the user and show him the final product, he's asking like, so why is this navigation like this? Why haven't you thought about this kind of user scenario or this kind of user scenario? And then you're like, but all my code is already made for that navigation, I cannot change it anymore. So that's why creating the navigation as soon as possible helps you a lot. To validate it with users, to talk about how your navigation works with people. So example, here's an application where you can see different recipes. So how to make food. So first, you choose the region. Doesn't have any UI. You somehow magically choose the region. Doesn't really matter how. After that, it shows you the different recipes from that region. And whenever you click that, it can be any format. We are not talking about that yet. Then it shows you the details. And when you click something, you can see the notes and photos. And then, of course, you can navigate back from each of those. How about if, let's say that these are user-created content. And after you have seen the receipt, you want to get something else. You want to see what this user has created. Then it would be like whole different navigation. But at this point, it's just like you draw a new font there, you draw new arrows there, and that's it. But if you figure this out at the moment, when you have coded everything, and everything is working nicely, you're going to be like, no, user doesn't want to do that. You are restricting what the user wants based on how much work it's going to be to you to change everything that you have done. So that's why start with the navigation. How many of you have seen or used Blend? Okay, so the Blend is a Photoshop for Windows Phone. So the Blend is meant for graphical people. It looks a lot like a Photoshop. It has the menus in the place of Photoshop. So that's why when developer opens this and he's completely lost, that's because you haven't used Photoshop. It has all the same drawing things, colors, everything like that that you're so used to. But of course, there is few very nice things why I really recommend on getting on the Blend, even if you're a developer. And I'm going to cover them a little bit later. Then the Visual Studio. How many of you haven't seen Visual Studio or used it? Awesome, so everyone has seen the coding tool. One of the cool things that these days is happening is that both of these are coming closer together. So the Visual Studio has lots of the same elements as a Blend, and Blend is getting a little bit more, not much, but a little bit more on the code side. But I think that in the future, the Visual Studio will get more closer to the Blend, but Blend will not get closer to the Visual Studio. Yeah. So whenever you're starting, you can either start from the design or you can start from the code. I mean, I really recommend starting with the design, but I can totally get it that if you want to start with the code. But that just means that you might need to work many times over the same code. As if you start with the design, you need to many times change the design, whichever you want to. And then the last sentence, get a graphic designer for your team. I would never, ever say that. If you want to succeed, do it. I really recommend doing it always. Even if the guy is not fully on your project, that you get someone who can look at your application at some point and say that you need this kind of stuff, you need that kind of stuff, that really helps. How many of you recognize what these three things are? Raise your hand. Great. So here is a basic application or basic page. Basically, you can put any content there. It's just that. Then on the right, we have something called a pivot. And the idea is that you can scroll to the left or right and change kind of like, they're like tabs. So you can change from different tabs. And then we have panorama, which I think is my favorite. And I think lots of people abuse both of these because they're not sure which one they want. So in panorama, the difference is that you have the huge text always there that is somehow common to all of the items. And then you have different type of items, or you might have the same kind of type of items. And you have one background that's showing all the time on the back. One of the best examples like how these are different is that if your application starts with the idea, let's say that it shows you your movies. Let's call it IMDb viewer. So the first view shows you which are your favorite movies at here. The second tab would be which are the trending movies. The third thing would be like which are your favorite, like friends' favorite movies. So that would fit very nicely to panorama instead of pivot. But then, for example, if you're creating a Facebook reader and you're reading groups, how many of here are using Facebook groups? Okay, so Facebook group is basically another stream of posts that are grouped by group. Yay! So the idea is that if you want to have different groups, you would put them on a pivot and have the group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, and they have nothing else common except that you belong to all of those groups. But they don't share anything else between those groups. How many of you are familiar with XAML? Okay. So here is an example. How many of you think this is good design? Okay. I wouldn't say that this is a bad design, but I wouldn't say this is a good. So for example, it has all the default elements. So it's showing the application name. It is a nice pivot. It has a picture that's big enough. Then it has lots of text, which I would say is too small. I wouldn't ever read all of this text. And then it has the preparation time here. It's not bad, but nobody has really thought what's the point of this application. Then the different items of the XAML. So we have the pivot title, we have the headers, and all of these are customizable. And when you want to go for the next level, you change all of the styles. Then of course we have the text block, image, and then the text blocks, and everything looks okay. This is the horrible XAML side if you go to see the code view. It looks a lot like HTML. It's not that horrible, and luckily, because we have good tools, you don't normally need to even touch it. We talked already about alignment. So here is the same application, right? No. If you look at it closely, all the alignment on the left side is correctly like a little bit wrong. It's not shouting it's wrong, but if you look at it a little bit closer and if you look at it from your phone, you would see that there is something wrong in this application. It doesn't look good. Then you would also see that, oh, the text is looking somehow stupid. And then you would see that there is no spacing between elements. So you cannot see where the text ends and where the text starts. So it's getting way harder to read it. Then we have design time data. How many of you use design time data? Okay, at least a few guys. This is the reason why developers should know Blend. Design time data is your friend. And we are going to cover how to use it later on. But basically, you can create design time data on a blend, and you cannot do this on a Visual Studio. You can use the design time data on Visual Studio, but you cannot generate it nicely. Then, lists. This is one of the most hardest part of your application development. How many of you have created an application without a list? Yeah, nobody raised their hand. So all of the application, almost all of them, contain some kind of list. There is multiple different ways to show the same information in different kind of list. For example, here we have books, and whenever you see that they are categorized by their category, so you have first science fiction, action, drama, comedy, or whatever the categories are, and after that, all of the books are here. The different way to show them would be from A to T, or whatever alphabetical order you want, but showing them on alphabetical order. Or you could sort them based on the writer or the author. Or you can sort them by rating. So, whichever rating method you choose, be sure to spend time on thinking like, why this one? Why do I want this one? Why don't I want that one? And then there is a huge difference between that. Do you show the picture of the book? Do you show the author? Do you show a description? Do you show the code or not? And as an application developer, you need to know what information is needed. So the idea is that you don't show any information that is not needed. But you also need to know what information is more important than the others to get the best results. And then whenever, for example, if you click the romance, you would get this kind of view, but it would have the different categories stacked all over them. And when you click one, it would take you right away into that position. This example is for the phone book. So whenever you have your phone book open, it sorts people by alphabetical order based on their first name, which I think doesn't make sense. I would like last name, but that's personal preference. And you can change it. And then you can, whenever you click a letter, you see all the different letters, and you can just jump there right away, which is pretty nice. Any questions on the design points? Good. So then let's talk about a little bit about monetization. How many of you have made free applications? Okay. How many of you have made paid applications? Okay. Have you made over 5,000 euros with your paid application? Okay. So one of the easiest way currently on mobile is to publish a free application and get huge number of downloads. And then start to think about how to make money. If you do it that way, you will run into problems. That's basically what Facebook did. Now they're figuring out like, what should we do? I'm not pretty sure. Let's go that way, no, that way. So whenever you create your mobile application, if you want to make money, if you want to get it living from it, you need to think about how I'm going to get money. There is multiple different ways. For example, you can sell it to the brand, so some brands buy it, and you sell the application branded for that brand. Or you might have some other companies that pay you to create the application, or you have users paying for the applications, advertisements, so different kind of models. So, different monetization strategies. Selling your application, advertising on your application, and then doing in-app purchasement. Has anyone here does the in-app purchasements? Anyone? Okay, So currently, I would say that this is the now rising star. Everyone wants to do it. Everyone thinks that this is going to make millions. Of course, if you get it right, that makes you millions. Supercell is one of the good examples. But then, of course, just selling your application can make you rich. Angry Birds never had any in-app purchases. It only was pay us $1.99 or euro or dollar or whatever it was, and you get the application. So they made the money just by selling. Then there is other examples of the advertisement. So free application, but you get the advertisements and they have made the money. The biggest difference is that if you want to make money with the advertisements, you need to have huge number of users. And the users must want to see, for some reason, those ads. Or they must be that they don't care that there is ads. If you want to sell something, then one of the best examples is that on the game side, people are ready to pay you right away for your game. Because games are costly. And they are used to pay for the games. On the application side, having a paid application is much harder. Because the users are like, so what does this application really do? What kind of features you really have? And that kind of questions. So when you're selling your application, of course, you get the 70% the same as in any store. And then whenever you have reached $200, they will pay you the first time the money. Nice. Whenever you're selling your application or a game, especially on the application side, on Windows Phone, there is very nice try button here. So you can try the application first. You can see, does it have the features that I want to see? Does it do what I want it to do? Or what the hell does it do, if you're not sure? And then a little bit about that on the game side, the trial is a little bit harder. Because on a game side, people already know what the game is about. They try out, they get hooked, and then they buy your game. Yay! Now, currently trending way is to do in-app purchasement. So the game is free. After 3 levels, it asks you, this is now going to cost you 3 euros. Are you accepting? And lots of people are buying, but lots of people are also at the same time saying that, fuck you, this game was supposed to be free. What's the problem? So when are you doing in-app purchasements, make sure that you are ready to get that negative feedback. If you're showing that buy this application or buy this game right now, you will run into problems. So depending on whichever way you go, I really recommend on the game side that go with a paid game with a trial and then a free version like these guys have. So they have the Ragdoll Run as a free, and then they have the premium version with a trial and purchasement. And the free version got advertisements, and it got huge number of downloads, huge number of ratings. Everyone love it. So, whenever you're doing the in-application purchases, Windows Phone Store is going to take care of everything for you. You don't need to think about billing. You don't need to think about receipts. You don't need to think about how to validate them. Almost everything is taken care of for you. You just need to go to the store, say which products you have, and then write logic to handle which products the user bought. Then there is 3 different kinds of in-app purchases that people like to use. So first is extended reach. Is that you have huge numbers of users that have the free version. Then you can somehow extend the experience, make the experience better. How many of you have played Clash of Clans, the Supercell game? Okay, Heyday, Farmville. Okay, you guys don't play, that's fine. So one of the common things on all of those 3 games is that the playing is free. When you start, for example, on the Clash of Clans build the building, first time it takes you 3 minutes. Okay, that I can wait. Next time it takes you 20 minutes. They're like, that's a little bit long. Then it starts to take hours. Then we go to days, then weeks, then months. At that point when you're like, I'm 3 months away and I need that building right now to get to next level, build better troops, I don't know, that kind of things, you're like, oh, there's an option. I can use $5 to get it. So $5 equals 1 beer. Okay, I can give up 1 beer to get this building right now. And then they use their credit card and the magic power appears. So that's when you want to do to extend the reach. Lots of users, most of them will not use the power-ups with the credit card. Most of them will play with the free, but those that use, they will use it a lot. And because you have a huge number of players, it doesn't matter if only like 20% use the real money. Then of course is the upsell. How many of you have bought ebooks or magazines or anything like that for the phone or tablet or something? Okay, so a few. So one of the easy things is that your application is a magazine viewer. And whenever you get, like, for example, 3 magazines for free, so you can look and get the feeling that, oh, this is cool, this is how I want to read my magazines. After that, when you want to view a magazine, it asks you, okay, please pay me 50 cents or €1 or €2 or whatever is the price. So that's pretty nice type to sell the magazines. Or you might want to do it on subscription based, but that's a whole other thing. Then of course is customizing. For example, on Windows Phone you have very nice Xbox avatar. If you want different clothing for that avatar, you just use your credit card and you have different clothing. Some people like to customize it a lot. Then of course there's durables and consumables. So durables would be new game levels, new characters, new items, new weapons, new shields, new maps, new something that exchange the game's experience, like make it longer. Then in consumables, for example, on Angry Birds you could buy, I don't know, 3 different tries again. For example, in Angry Birds, if you're trying to get all maps on the 3 level, and then it would ask you, you only reached 2 stars. Do you want to pay €1 to get more tries? That would be horrible. But some people would still do it. So creating a seriously cool consumables is also a very nice way to earn. There is only one little bit harder thing on this when we're talking about these. Even though all of the ways are good, depending on your case, it's way different. So it's never the same thing. Even though it worked for some other guys with almost similar game, it might not work with your game. So it's always case by case, but here it's just like different type of items and methods. So when I said that you need to define what you want to sell, it's this easy. So define the name, you include 3 lines of code, you get this kind of view, you choose the countries and pricing. Because one of the funny things is that you can choose different price to different countries. Why would you want to do that? Because in some countries, people are more willing to put more money than in other countries. So you might want to try to find a balance between different countries and sell the stuff to different prices to different countries. Of course, this might make some people mad, but mostly you might get very good results on this too. And then, of course, you can manage, monitor, and respond to all of those. And you should absolutely do it. Yay, 10 tips to make free money. So, trial API. How many of you who had made Windows Phone have trial? How many of you who made Windows Phone had non-free application? Why didn't you use trial?
We have a free version of it.
Okay.
You said
Yeah. Okay, that's very valid reason, and that's absolutely when I wouldn't do trial. But you don't have trial in your full version? Okay. That could be something that you might want to do, because some people are ready, some people don't ever even look at the free category, because they want to pay for the games, because they think that premium games are more valuable. So just having the few trial levels on the premium version might still increase your downloads nicely. At least this is what we have seen. We don't have these huge numbers, but we have seen that on the App Campus, one of the games that we funded, they created a free version and the premium version, and they didn't have trial for the premium. When they added the trial, they got like 50% more buys on the premium version. So it's something that you should do. Of course, these numbers might be a little bit, extreme. Then of course, using live tile is always very important. So why is using live tile making that much difference? Because people open your application when they see, oh, there is something new happening. Of course, if your game doesn't have any dynamic content, I don't know any of the games that wouldn't have any dynamic content, then of course you don't need to live tile. So whatever, try to figure out why the user would want to come back to your game, and then use the live tile to increase that feeling. Then push notifications. So sending users reminders or telling him that something is happening is very, very effective. Of course, if you want to lose lots of users, just do this wrongly and you will lose lots of users. One of the best examples was that one of our teams was trying this promotion that the game is now half price, please buy it, to all of those people who use trial. They just made one mistake. They had global applications or global users. And they sent push notifications at 2 p.m. at their local time. So lots of users woke up during the night and were like, oh, you want to sell me something? Nice try. So whenever you're thinking about the push notifications, be sure to check and think about that. In a global world, the time is not same in all the places. Then, if you're using ads, think about what kind of ads you want. Because same ads that sells to the UK or Americans or Finns or Swedes don't sell to the other guys. So if you start to target Finland and Sweden, I'm from Finland and we hate Swedish people, so that's why we always use these examples. So
filming this, right?
Yeah, I know, that's fine. I've said this other times live. So the Swedish people have an ice hockey match against Finnish people. So when you're marketing it, the Finnish people have, of course, the Finnish logo, they're big and saying, come to cheer up the Finland team to victory. The Swedish people have, of course, their logo, come to cheer up us to the victory. If you show that to the wrong people, you might get very mixed results. So that's why localizing your ads is very, very effective if you do it right. And it's pretty easy. You just have to create different accounts for different countries. Then, using the Windows Phone style. This means following the guidelines. If you don't follow the guidelines, then you need to have something very good reason. I can give you one. You're a Facebook. You're big enough that people will use you, even if they need to learn that, oh, on Facebook client, if you swipe from a left, there is a menu. If you swipe from a right, there is a menu. And if you double tap that button, there is pop-up and what? But the users are ready to do it because they want to use your application. So it's fine if you're Facebook or Spotify or something like that. If you want to succeed without a huge brand, use the styling. Then, publishing globally. Even though you might be first targeting your own market, currently, for example, India is one of the most fastest growing markets for the Windows Phone. Another one is China, which are huge. They already have more phones than in Finland. And Nokia is a Finnish company, so almost every Finnish people have Lumia. So they already have more, like way more. So thinking about globally is always nice when you're doing applications. Yeah?
I have a question about those emerging markets. What is your opinion about the mentality of users which are willing to pay in those markets? Because my opinion would be there are like few main markets. It's Canada, Australia, UK and US which are paying for in-app purchases and they're wasting their money, as it can be said. And the other markets, they're like, I don't know, if they are sleepers or they need some more commitment to spend their money.
Yeah. So for example, so the question was, what kind of users are in growing markets, right? And do they use the money compared to Canada or USA people? Yes, but they use it differently. They use it way differently. For example, Brazil and India have been two hugest buyers of paid games currently on Windows Phone, in one of our cases. Why is it that they were popular during that time? They managed to launch during some football game and they had a little bit promotion during the football game in some website and they got like huge people saying, oh yeah, this is a cool game. It was a little bit related to sports. I don't really remember like how much, but like this much. But the idea is that they got traction and after that people bought. But we have only seen it during on one game. Other games, nobody's buying. So what we see is as a funny, as a logical game, as a good game, they might not. So the difference is that in those markets, if you really want to succeed there and you have to go there or know someone from there who can give you insight. It's all might be very small things that you're advertising it wrongly. For example, Chinese people are crazy about leaderboards. Like seriously. If you don't have a leaderboard, you're not going to make it. Another thing is that if your application or game is not in Chinese, you're not going to make it. Doesn't matter if your application doesn't have any text. If your description is not in Chinese, you're not going to make it. So those countries, even though they are very nice, if you can match them, they are also very hard and that you seriously like ask help and know someone from those markets. I can tell you a very good resource. It's a Microsoft developer platform evangelist people. You have a local one. Chinese people have a local one. You can ask like, can you give me the email address of the Chinese one? They're like, yeah, sure, here you go. Then you can email that person and ask like, why is our application not doing well in your market? And then they can advise you. But it's about small stuff. But I would say, for example, India is currently one of the largest on in-app purchases on Windows Phone. But they're buying totally different applications and totally different stuff than in, for example, Canada and USA. Then, localize smartly, using the language, currency, symbols. One of those things is like how you're showing thousands, how you're showing weight, how you're showing temperature. Localizing them is a very important thing. For example, I don't want to see any temperature in Fahrenheit because I just don't get it. I want to see them in Celsius. So if I would have two applications, let's say weather applications, another one is showing them on Celsius, another one is showing them in Fahrenheit, I would pick the Celsius one. Then, right size your application. Don't make it bigger than 90 megabytes. Also, if you seriously are smart, you make your application as small as possible. Why? Because the experience on downloading it is better. And if I want to share an application with my friend who has Windows Phone and tell her, hey, go download that application. If I know it's taking a half hour with our internet connection, I'm not going to even bother. But if it takes like 1 minute or 30 seconds, I'm like, yeah, just download it, it's cool. So having a smart application is seriously a huge benefit. Of course, sometimes it's very hard to get your application size too small. You might have so much graphic, you might have nice sound, you might have nice 3D models. That's okay. Then acting on a feedback. Currently, one of the things is that on a store, if someone reviews your application, you cannot respond to that review comment. So if you really want to gather the feedback and answer to it, you should use some other mechanism on the Windows Phone. Maybe email, maybe Eventbrite links, something. But if you really want to gather the feedback, you need to focus on it. And then more important is responding to people. Mostly people are fine if they ask you something like, add this feature, and you just answer, sorry, but we're a little bit busy, so we are now not adding that. They're fine, like, okay, developer responded to me. I'm happy. Yay. So answering to people is very important. And then, of course, updating frequently. Why do you think that updating is important? How many of you have updated applications in last month? Okay, so a few people. So one of the things that people do when there is an update, they show that, oh, I have updates on my application. They go to the store, they start updating, and then they click one of those applications like, oh, I had that application. What's new on this time? So giving the update makes the users to re-see your application. And they might even read what's new on your application. Of course, if you make stupid updates, people are not going to do anything. They're just going to hate you. So make smart updates, but make them frequently. Then a little bit about where I work. Of course, just to like, on the end, tell you where to get free funding. So, we were a program by Microsoft, Nokia, and Aalto University. We are a new kind of accelerator. So we are focusing on Windows Phone. Of course, Windows Phone is a new platform, so of course we are a new accelerator too. So we have already been acting for over a year. We had 3,000 different projects pitched to us. How you pitch us is that you fill a form in our website. It's a very hard process. And then you send it to us. And then we have some partners that helps us to find cases, promote our applications, and do advertisements together. We are a go-to-market slingshot. Why is that? Whenever we give you funding, we don't want shares, we don't want IPR, we don't want your rights. We basically don't want anything else from you guys than that you create your application. Sounds too good? Okay, not bad. And then other than money, we have a few other things. One of them is our alumni network. So people who have graduated from our fund are belonging to the same LinkedIn group where they can share information. They belong to different kind of email lists where we share whenever we got new information, that what you should do, and they share their own experience. Because we have lots of different kind of apps and games, they can go ask like, hey, that guy's made that something like some marketing campaign, they had good results, maybe I should go and ask them how they did it. And then of course, what we do is we provide coaching. So who are we looking for? Sorry. So we're looking for developers, designers, and guys with a track record. So if you really want to apply to us, what we're going to look for is, of course, what is your current idea, what kind of team you have, what you have done before. And most of all, we're looking for people and groups that are passionate about what they're doing. I mean, you must be doing it for some reason. Better be something that you like. So we provide coaching and education, and we provide it so that it always focuses on your product. So how do we do it? We have our own portal that all of those who get funded will get access to. And then for 2 times a year, before it was 4, now 2 times a year, we host a 4 weeks accelerator camp in Finland. So out of all of those who we have funded, we invite about 20 different teams to Finland. We pay the travels, we pay the staying in the hotel in Finland, and we'll give you best coaches in the world for 4 weeks. After that, we send you back, and you are going to be success. So it's a pretty nice program. But we're only giving that to selected ones to make it sure that all of those who really benefited will get into it. Then one of the things that we provide is quality assurance. We make sure that your application works perfectly. We test your application for you, and we give you a feedback that your slides are not aligned, or that font is too small, or whatever. We go through your application and we help you to make it even better. Then we give you networking and marketing support. We will contact you with all of the relevant Nokia and Microsoft guys and other partners if there is need. And we will help you to get the marketing support. So all of our applications are featured on the store. They have a blog post on our website or Microsoft site or Nokia site. They have press releases. And our goal is to make those guys who we fund success. We don't have any other goals. Then we have 1,000 square meters in Helsinki, Finland. If you're ever around there, please come to visit us. And all of those who have got funding, they're free to use it as their own working space. Any questions? Good. So, how are we selecting people and ideas? We want them to be different. So either it's a brand new app, or you have already successful app on iOS or Android that have been very successful, and now you want to make a special or better Windows Phone version. We are looking application that's really can generate huge number of downloads or can make you rich. Both are fine for us. Then what we're looking for is teams with experience. Why we want teams with experience? Because we have seen that to get most out of our program, it helps if you're not making your first application. It's fine if you're making your third or fourth or second. Then it's a lot, you get more out of us and we get more out of you. Then of course, convincing proposal. So you already know what your application is going to do. You kind of know what it's going to look like. You have the business model. You have the people. Seriously, no questions? Free money? Then a little bit about our process. So first is, of course, criteria. So we check, after you have submitted your proposal, we check that you fit to our criteria. And after that, we send you a paper telling you that, okay, now you got our funding. After that, you provide us the design documents, which basically will tell what is the application will look like, what kind of features it has, and how is the navigational model. Then we pay 30% of the money. We don't ask where the money went. We only ask you, design document completed, what is your bank number? Pretty nice. After that, you need to make the implementation and really get it working. We check it, and after that has been approved, you get the rest of the money. And then you need to be exclusive to Windows Phone for 90 days. After that, we are more than happy if you share your love with other platforms. So, you want to get funded? There is now 3 nice ways to do it. First of all is talk to me at the break. Then go to our website, submit a proposal, and then of course, third, have fun and rock the world. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.